Hello YouTubers and fellow tankers, I am Shrine King and you have arrived at King's Court Reviews, which today we are going to do a review of the Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank in German line, the Maurenbracher. Now, for those that are new coming, this is a review slash guide. What I'm doing now is the structure is I will kind of cover some statistics to pay attention to. I'm not going to do, by statistics I mean the stats to the tank. I'm not going to go like super in depth, but I'm going to kind of give you some of the highlights that help discuss or point out what I consider for the pros and cons of the tank. And then I go into a guide where I'm going to explain how to best play the tank, things that might help you perform better in the tank. Also, I'm going to note which tanks are very dangerous against you. And then also go into, like, I'm going to show a gameplay video. Like, there's going to be gameplay videos in the background. Eventually, once I kind of get through the whole review, kind of saying like, is it worth it and how to best play it, stuff like that, then I'll just go into a commentary. The commentary is something new. So for those that are arriving, or I'm sorry, returning, when we get to the part where I'm going to kind of just do kind of like a walkthrough explanation of what I'm doing, let me know if you guys like that, because that is definitely new. So here's the Maurenbracher. Right away, you'll notice it is really big. It is very heavy, and it is actually considered a super heavy. So for the German line, there's numerous heavies. So this premium is definitely a good thing to have, but it is not the only Tier 8 heavy premium. So you have this one and the Lerva, and of course I will do a review of the Lerva separately. But just bear in mind there are two premium heavy tanks that you can pick from. But you'll notice here I'm pointing out the stats. You're looking at 220 penetration with 440 alpha. It's kind of a big deal. -8 gun depression is still really good. Only having a .38 dispersion is actually decent, especially considering the size of the gun. And then you'll notice like its concealment is utter trash, but then the view range is pretty good. So you'll see I got 423 as the view range. Now, bear in mind that's with vents on. So that doesn't get you all the way up there, but some things I'm pointing out here is the weak points on this tank. So you'll notice the lower glacis is a weak point, the gun port, the little gunner port on the hull there is a weak point. I'm pointing out those cheeks. If they're tier 10, they can definitely pen your cheeks, and then the cupola is a big weak point that everyone basically aims for. More specifically, a little square that you see, that's the spot to hit. If you nail that, it'll pen right through. But when angling this heavy, you'll see here I'm kind of pointing out like the angling that you can have. Like you can even get up to that as long as it's your tier. If you're going against tier 10s, I would not give that much of your side. Try to find places where you can kind of hide that lower glacis, but bear in mind, honestly, against tier 10s, this thing's going to be a little rough because of the fact that it has so many weak points from the front, which makes that part definitely difficult. But I don't know if everyone necessarily knows those weak points, and not only that, but even then, they still got to be able to hit those weak points. So for example, the cheeks, you can kind of guard your cheeks by turning your turret. That will make it to where it's a lot harder for them. Just bear in mind when I'm saying turn your turret, I don't mean turn your turret so the cheek is still exposed to them. I mean turn it so that the cheek is no longer something that they can shoot at, right? So you're working more off deflection in that case. And here I'm showing in the line that there's 3 heavy tank lines that you can use this tank to work on the crews. And the nice bit is that because it has so many crew members, it works for the mouse and E100 perfectly to make sure that you're having all crew members there. So now let's go ahead and start talking about pros and cons of the tank. So pro is it is very heavily armored, making it very hard to penetrate, especially against the same tier. Even a tier above will struggle very much so trying to penetrate this tank. It has a really good gun. So for the tier, being able to knock someone for 440, that's really nice. That's something like you see more commonly now for some of the heavy premiums that are being released. But at the time, like this was being released, that wasn't very common. So it's definitely very nice. And then having .38 accuracy when other ones normally have like .41 or .42, yeah, that's kind of nice, honestly. Um, and it has extra hit points. So sitting at like 1,700 hit points is very good. Now the angling is also really good on it. Now, and that goes more with the armor. So that's kind of the gist of the. Oh, I'm sorry, and the view range is really nice as well. So actually reaching over 400 view range without actually having to have anything specific from like crew members or anything like that, it's pretty good. Now, con-wise for the tank though, it is slow as molasses. You can see here I'm moving around, but I'm only getting like 18, 19. Majority of the time it's actually even less than that, which makes it pretty rough. So you'll see there I still blocked that shot. The other bit is all those weak points is another massive con of it. Because you have all those weak points and people then know about those weak points, you tend to run into a lot of struggle with it. The other thing is, if it gets ammo racked, because of the reload time on it, it is pretty significant difference when it gets ammo racked. And you are artillery fodder. Most of the time, every artillery unit will probably aim for you just to knock you, because once you're stunned, it is massive weakness to this tank, because it starts making where you cannot maneuver around it. When you cannot maneuver, that's typically what ends up biting you in the butt. The other thing I would actually rate as a pro is that let's say special ammo now, right? Its special ammo is APCR, which means the round will actually travel faster, allowing you to actually snipe even long distance without having to lead the target very much. And obviously, as all heavies, it does not have any real camo rating. So if you were expecting to be able to hide in bushes and no one will see you, probably not. That's not a highlight to the tank. And the other bit I would say is, when going against tier 10s, this thing does not really have a good time. Now, if you can side scrape, which in this case I'm trying to split between multiple targets, and I'm trying to keep it to where, like you'll notice that one guy was able to push all the way up and take a shot at me. So I was trying to use the lining of the wall to my advantage. Some things I could have done is probably actually lined up to that inner wall, like the inner side of that wall, and then backed up a little bit so that when he tried pushing up, I would actually shoot that. But the issue is the angle between the two buildings. He can actually shoot me earlier from the inside of the building before I actually get to really shoot at him. So I was trying to keep it to where he would come out and let me shoot him. And as you can see right there, the aim time is not bad, and it allows me to aim in accurately. So let's get into the guide side of this tank. How do you play the Maurenbracher? Well, it's super heavy. Because it's slow as molasses, I do not recommend really stopping very often. If you stop a lot, it's not going to go very good. If you are top tier, you can be a real bully with the tank. You don't have to worry too much. If you are not top tier, you probably want to be a little more careful with the tank. Angling is really essential with this tank, but even then, like I said, it's really dependent on your opponent. So you definitely want to be there against the heavies. You are a lineman basically. You want to be in the very front against the heavies, trying to suck up as many shots as possible. And as you can see, like, some of this stuff gets a little rough because of the fact that people are running a lot of premium ammo, or they just have really massive guns. So you'll see there, I made sure to turn a little extensive, but I also made sure to use the building to my advantage. That was so that he could not get my lower glacis, and by that, I kept him from actually being able to pen me. And you'll see I'm still doing it. So you'll notice, like, backing up, this thing almost moves as fast forward as it does backing up, which is definitely a highlight to it. So use that to your advantage when possible. Now here, I blocked the T10, but at the same time, I was actually leaving myself a little exposed to the E75, but it was because he wasn't looking at me. So the nice bit is that you do have good penetration, especially for the tier. So do try to aim at trying to take down some of the heavier tanks. Or I'm sorry, not heavier tanks. Some of the higher threat tanks. So even like the higher tiers, like E75, the T10 and stuff like that. Those are the ones that you want to go against, right? Because by going against them and having them expose themselves and try to shoot you and everything like that, that is typically how you're going to help your team win. For performance-wise, sadly though, it also leaves you in a very exposed state because you're really dependent on your team helping you. If they don't help you, you're probably going to die. And that's one of the bigger parts that is kind of lacking to this tank, is because you have no real maneuverability. You're not really able to turn in place. If the opponent does try to push you and they have more than one tank, it's going to be a bad day. You most likely will die, and sadly so. If you're top tier, that's a whole different story. There's a lot of tanks that you can actually take on all at once, and it won't make any difference to you. So, um, yeah, I mean that's really the gist of it. Try to get to where the heavies are going to be. Be the front liner. Make sure to use your angling as much as possible. That's really the gist that I could tell you as a guide for the tank, to be honest. If you guys want and you want like more in depth, I could try to do more commentary videos, basically doing walkthroughs of what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, and maybe that'll help you. But let's go ahead and talk about tanks that you want to be careful about. Any of the new line stuff you want to be careful about. I can tell you that right now. So like for example, the Object 705 at tier 9. I'm trying to think of all the new ones. There's a new French line that came out. There's the 255 or 257, 277 from the Russian line. Those are like all of those heavies. Those are the ones that are like new. Oh, and same thing goes with the Polish line now, right? Where they have the 50 TP, 60 TP. Those are all tanks that you want to be careful about. And the reason being is those tanks are all designed now with a lot better penetration, better accuracy, and high damage output too. So those are very dangerous for you, because if they do nail you in any of your weak spots, which most of them are probably just going to aim at your lower glacis if they can get it, or that big little cupola sitting there. And that's definitely going to be really painful. Other than that, you're looking to avoid tanks that are either high penetration or the ones that have no need for it, like they don't care. So for example, the Japanese vehicles, where they're using basically high explosives. The other thing is to bear in mind any tank that has a large caliber weapon that swaps to high explosives is also a very big danger for you. So I'm mentioning the Type 4 Heavy is definitely dangerous. But for example, when I mentioned like the 60 TP, that thing has like a 600 damage gun, right? So that means if he swaps to high explosives, he's probably still going to do 200 to 300 damage to you. Now, for example, the Object 705, I think, has a similar gun. So it would be the same thing. And then the tier 10 version of it is definitely so, because I think it actually has a 750 alpha gun. Which means tank destroyers can also be a big problem. One, a lot of them at the tier 10s, they are sitting at like 368 penetration, or 270 penetration, with the ability of getting up to like 370 or 380 penetration, which means they are very dangerous. They have high enough penetration that they can pen you most likely even through your hull. So you definitely want to be careful. Now, the other thing you want to be very careful about is any tank that's got decent penetration but also has very good accuracy. So, for example, Waffle Trogger, the tier 9, is sitting with a 500 alpha damage gun with like 240 pen or 250 pen. Not necessarily something super amazing, but it can go into its premium rounds and you get a lot higher penetration. But the thing is, it is very accurate. It has like a 0.35 or 0.33 accuracy. And when it gets to the tier 10, it has 0.30, guys. It's super accurate. Now, why is that dangerous? Well, it means even at a distance, it can probably pick out your weak points. And that's a problem. So those are the kind of, I mean, there's a lot of tanks. By all means, look through the list of tanks at tier 10, tier 9, and tier 8. What you're looking for is anything that's got basically 250 penetration or higher, and then anything that's going to be very accurate, and anything that's sitting at very high alpha damage. And what I mean by this is anything over 500. If they swap to HE, they can definitely be a nightmare for you. So now we're going to talk, and now, sadly, I'm a little bit of the ways through the match, and I'm going to kind of point to what I'm doing. So here I'm watching my team. My team is definitely winning the North. sadly so, we are not winning the South. We lost it. What my team is doing, though, is no one seems to really be paying attention. No one seems to be trying to do anything about it. So here you'll see I'm trying to snipe. It's very hard to snipe with this thing from a distance, but the other thing is I don't want to push because I need to keep that distance. Now, what you might be noticing is that they are trying to snipe that cupola. There's another one that shot my cupola. Now, the Comet doesn't have enough penetration. He's not going to pen it. He also has a very small gun, so it was actually a bad choice for him to swap to HE. He just can't damage me, so he needs to just not even bother. Now, obviously, the bigger problem here was the artillery. So you'll see I'm backing off now because I know artillery's got a focus on me. Luckily, that did not hit. That was actually just very close to me, and that's why it was so low in damage. Now, bear in mind, I do have a spall liner, so I am reducing the damage. At least I think I do. I might not have a spall liner at this point, to be honest. I swapped to a spall liner because of how much artillery focuses me, very typically. So you'll see I'm backing off. And finally, the rest of my team, I guess, realized, oh, we actually lost the South. So now they're coming back to try to assist with the South. What I do know is that they have a lot of eyes out there. So you'll already see RT-29, not such a smart fellow. And this is kind of the thing, right? You want to pay attention to what's going on the map. Just by looking at it, he could have seen that I had already gone up. I had already started backing off. I had already spotted a couple people, so he should know that there are people there. That they're lined up, ready to fight. And also, he should have seen that I took a nice hit from the artillery, right? So now you'll see I'm playing, like I backed up, and the reason I'm backing up here was I can't push from there. I know that because they got the guy on the outside who's just going to keep spotting. And we see here we lost another guy because they're just going to sit there and be spotted and let their artillery do the work. And that's what you don't want to do. So here I'm back. I backed up. Now I'm using the ridge to kind of help guard me, keep me safe. Also, hopefully I don't get spotted, right? And then the reason why this side is actually very dangerous if your opponents can get in here is all the cover. There's so many bushes to protect you, right? And by protect you, I mean like it just keeps you safe. Like no one can really see you. Also, you'll notice I swapped to APCR, and that's why like that long shot, I was just taking it anyway, even with him already crawling, like going back. It's because I know my shell velocity is so fast that it could still get there had it gone where I needed it to go. RNG, I can't really help that, but at least I was making a choice to try to get it there. The other thing is with kind of like how things are going right now, I need to make sure that I can hit and damage people as much as possible. And there you'll see, that's what I'm talking about for that shell velocity. By me using the premium round, by the time I fired, it was pretty much already on him. And that's not a low distance. That's like 300-400 meters, right? Actually, it probably is 400 meters now that I think about it. So, and here you go. So you'll notice now they got someone else who kind of showed up because I saw the guy that we had that was pushing north, he'd lost. He died. So here you go. Now I'm trying to swap over because I know, hey, our artillery already took a hit. Sadly, that artillery did fire, but I think this guy might be unable to see him. At least that's what I'm hoping. And here's the part where it's kind of sad. So I'm aware. I'm paying attention. I'm trying to get back. But I'm a Maurenbracher. I'm not very fast. Especially against an IS-3, that IS-3 is probably going to actually get all the way up to the artillery before I even make it. But my goal is to try to get in there to grab the IS-3's attention, hopefully stop him. And you'll see right here, he's spotted, but not by me, by the artillery. So he's about to get to that artillery and find that artillery. I am trying my damnedest. There we go. I got his attention. Sadly, I got someone else's attention too, as you can see, which is the AMX 5100. Not a good thing, right? Here's another shot. So you see, I'm kind of like, I know that shot is coming from that angle, so I'm keeping my hull turned a little bit. Now, if I was really smart, I would actually be moving my turret. And it's kind of, yeah, so you see, I'm not really moving my turret. You kind of would wiggle your turret, maybe like farther to the left, a little bit to the right. And that makes it a little harder for them to actually pen that little cupola. But I didn't do any of that. Now here, sadly though, I'm just doing what I can. honestly, in this match. It's 12-9. That's not very good. I know that their artillery is definitely focusing me a lot. I also know that we still have guys coming from the south, and sadly, and this is the bit too, I should have probably communicated, told my IS-6, dude, don't come back, because he came back, and now you can see what's happening. They're going to push right through the flag, and then they're going to run right into the artillery, and they're going to catch the IS-6 in the rear, and me in the rear, most likely. So thank you, IS-6, for making such a bold play. Really did not do us any good. But all things considered, I understand, right? We're trying to push through, hopefully. It's just, you never want to lose your support if you don't have to. And as you can see, they still have 3 of their support. So us losing our support while they still have 3 is definitely a bad day, especially since I don't have a lot of maneuverability. So you'll see here, I can definitely use the top hill, or the top hill here to my advantage, because it makes it hard for him to get my lower glacis. Right here, he's definitely got an easy shot in my lower glacis, but he didn't bother aiming at it. And you'll see I can still turn and shoot. Nah. And luckily, alright, great. My IS-6 definitely did help me there. You got it. But right there's the artillery. It's all over for me, and that's really all she wrote. So I hope that kind of shows and demos what I mean by like the strengths of this tank, and some of the weaknesses, right? Because you can see that AMX-50 was already getting all the way behind me, and that makes it really tough. So if you are trying to build up on this crew, and for the tanks that it kind of goes into, like let's say you're trying to work for the mouse, you definitely want to get like the Hall Traverse stuff, right? Eventually, right? Obviously you want repairs because it's a lot of artillery fire, so you definitely want repairs. You are going to want Sixth Sense. You are going to want Brothers in Arms. You are going to want things like Deadeye, right? Deadeye is definitely a huge benefit, but you also want the try to reduce the terrain resistance, try to reduce or increase your turret traverse speed, your hall traverse speed, anything that you can do to help yourself be more combat ready, even for close combat and dealing with faster tanks. Recon is definitely nice on heavies eventually. If your heavy definitely has very poor view range, then I would say I would emphasize a little more on recon, because yeah, having that extended view range. Now, bear in mind, you also get it with radio too, right? So you can have the view range boost from, I think, your commander, and then also a view range boost from your radio men. So stacking those together, trying to get yourself to the maximum, which is 450, is perfect. That's a great idea. Definitely run Spall Liner on this thing, honestly, just from my experiences in it. It's rough if you don't. You also want the gun rammer, right? And I would definitely still keep vents, right? So because the vents also helps with that reload, along with your maneuverability and so on and so forth. If you're having a really rough time, it's also not bad to run coffee, right? So you can run coffee on it, and then if you have repairs, you can drop the repair kit most likely for it. All right, thank you. Catch you next time.